right, it is that time once again as we welcome you back into the saddle of another episode of the Grunge Bible Podcast. We are here for episode number 192, coming to you on Monday, November 25th, 2024. My name is Chris Salona, and I am joined by Ethan Shalloway. Ethan, how's it going, man?
Chris, it's going well. I know we can't say it's as usual because it's not. I'm back in Pennsylvania. I got here about a week ago, had a wedding, and decided to stay. And staying through Thanksgiving, which I'm very excited for. And yeah, it's been a busy week. It's been full. A lot of, just be able to work with our friend Andy Engelman, which is great. He's a friend of the pod. And
Veteran of the podcast, yeah.
we're working labor. Believe it or not, we're doing a veterans memorial for the high school that I think he went there too, but that I graduated from. And Elijah's like, he's coaching, my brother's coaching there. So I work at the high school outside, like we're like laying brick and finishing the caps. And so I'm like mixing cement. And then I like walk over to the track and train. And then I go and sit with family for the rest of the night because I'm around them. So yeah, it's been a good week. Like it was definitely busy and stuff, but it was really nice. It's just good being home, And
Oh,
Thanksgiving,
yeah, for sure.
favorite holidays. I'm really looking forward to it. And yeah, there's Thanksgiving's great. Thanksgiving's awesome.
Yeah, it's a good holiday, man. I'm glad that Thanksgiving week is here as we kick it off with a podcast episode. But that's solid, man. Yeah, this will be a good week upcoming for sure, I think.
How have you been, my friend?
Oh man, I've been good. I've been busy. Well, not I guess not any more busy than I've been the last like month or so. But I'm just I'm just anxious to get to the holidays. Like this past week, well, I suppose we're recording this on Saturday night, the week before Thanksgiving. So like this past week, it wasn't really challenging. Like I just wanted it to be over, and not even because it was bad or anything. Like I had a good week. I was just like, all right, like I just like want to get to the holidays. But yeah, man, I've been doing pretty good. I don't have anything to complain about, which I suppose I haven't in a while, which is good. The only thing, this is just one of those weekends preceding a podcast episode where there really wasn't any like one like perfect tidy period of time for us to do this, and consequently we're sitting here at 8:45 p.m. on a Saturday doing a podcast, but it'll beat doing it Sunday morning, the day before it comes out. I think when I wake up in the morning and I don't have this hanging over my head, I think I'll be grateful that we've done it tonight.
Yeah, definitely not the most ideal week to get it done. It was just busy and but it's something we haven't done before, that's for sure. And people know this listening. This is not, this comes from time to time. And I was talking
Oh
to a
man.
top level patron, Doug Endy, this week, and he reassured me that it's the comfort of our voices and not necessarily the well, he likes the quality, I think, because he got us the new microphones.
Damn right.
The
Which, by
fact
the way,
that
only one of us is employing right now.
yeah, I know, but hopefully the audio is going to be good. I trust in
Yeah.
Drew, but
Yeah. I
yeah,
trust
it's one of
Drew.
those things that people like it when it's consistent. So we're gonna do
Hmm.
our part, and we're gonna get you an episode, no matter hell or high water, as they say.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the thing. I mean, like, this is 192. I mean, 200 is a foregone conclusion. I mean, it's so close now, which is crazy. But yeah, as maybe unfortunate as this time period is to record, Lord knows, as you said, we've had worse. You remember that one time we ended up recording at like, it was like 7 p.m. Sunday night. Like the podcast came out like less than 12 hours later. And like, I think I was battling a severe hangover, and I think you had gotten back from traveling or something. And that was a tough episode. That was sometime in the summer, I believe. But
Yeah, we kept kicking the can down the road. Oh yeah,
yeah. This
remember.
this this will be pretty good though. You don't have any complaints, but yeah, today it's a good episode. We get into like a good run of episodes here that we typically do. One kind of Thanksgiving theme. We've got the Spotify Wrapped shit coming out soon, and then Christmas will be here soon. But we've taken a lot of angles for the Thanksgiving week podcast in the past, talking about traditions, talking about Alice's restaurant, talking about a whole bunch of shit. And today, this is a fitting one. I'm glad that we're getting to with a focus on the Last Waltz, which was the band's farewell show that became a documentary on Thanksgiving night in 1976. Ethan, you and I go way back in terms of the band. There's a lot of lore that perhaps we'll get into between us of this band. And it'll be good just to spend some time talking about this. I watched it last night to refresh, and a lot of sounds, a lot of people helping them out that night. I mean, it was a who's who of great musicians back in the mid '70s. So it'd be cool to chat about that, and we're able to have the consistency week in and week out because of the people that support us. And I would like to thank and officially welcome and ring the bell to announce that we have a new $2 Patreon member, and they go by the name of Erica Ashu. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. So Erica, welcome aboard. I hope that you're listening. And if you are listening, I sent you a message on Patreon because the running theme is that if you join the Patreon, we will do an episode about whatever you want. So we haven't heard back from you yet. So if you have an episode idea, please reach out to us in any way, shape, or form, and we'll add your episode topic to the queue. But thanks for taking the leap to support us. $2, $5, or $10. It's all great, and it's all very, very helpful as we continue to do this podcast. And in particular, I would like to thank the top tier Patreon supporters who gave us $10 a month to help make this podcast happen, so you can listen to our voices every single Monday. And at this time, the names of the top tier supporters are Black Hole Sean, Kara K, D-Boat, Doug Endy, the aforementioned Doug Endy, Down a Hole Flat Out Fucked, Eddie Vedder got me through my second divorce, Apona, Gochujang, Fuck Soup, Carlene Salona, Jamie Lynn, Jade Mercado, Keith White, King Buzzo Stole My Hair, The Michael Dooley Project, Millie Nikki 6, Pile of Punk, Russell, Seattle 4 Fanboy from New Jersey, Abraham is the cutest basset hound ever, Sherry Matthews, and What the Fuck is Up Denny's. So thanks one and all for all of those good things. And Ethan, in relation to hearing our voices every Monday, I've got an interesting tidbit here. The last 4 episodes of the Grunge Bible podcast that have come out, they have all been exactly 1 hour and 7 minutes long.
Really?
Yeah, like right on the nose.
That's awesome.
There's that consistency, man. Like we just do what we got to do.
Whenever we do that, or 207. I don't know why I said 107. What am I saying? We're way past that.
Yeah, I hope we're way past that. Why 207?
No, I was thinking an hour and 7. I don't know why. For some reason, I forgot that we've done already 100 episodes.
I'll never forget that we've done 100 episodes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I just want to take this time. That we're pulling on the Thanksgiving side of things. So thank you to everybody that is supporting us. I mean, it really does mean a lot. And every little bit counts. And if somebody joins us next week, we'll be very thankful after Thanksgiving because Chris, I think we're in our grateful stage. We're just grateful, Ethan, and grateful, Chris, right now. Just living life, trying to be grateful. So it's pretty sweet. I'm really excited about this episode for what it is, the Last Waltz, and we have a few other things that we're going to talk about. But I think we should start with This Day in Music. Yeah.
I think we should start with This Day in Music, and I will kick it off. We've got just a trio of events here to discuss. On this day in 1964, Mark Lanegan was born. So obviously, we've spent a large amount of time discussing Mark Lanegan here on the podcast, and in fact, last year, right around Thanksgiving, right around his birthday, we did an episode all about Mark Lanegan. That was episode number 140. So you go back and listen to that one. We also did one when he passed away. We did one about Bubblegum 20. And I'm sure there's been some other ones that we did about him, but I mean, he seems to come up every single week. One of my favorite artists of all time, born on this day in 1964.
Yeah, he's popped up a ton of times. And Andy, we were just talking to Andy about it. We were talking about the episode that we just recorded. Well, we talked about the Bubblegum 20th anniversary, but he was saying that his son has gotten into. It's funny because he's teaching about grunge, and every once in a while he's like Cole just got into Alice in Chains, and Cole just started listening to Nirvana, and he's like, Cole was just listening to Mark Lanigan and like put on Hit the City, you know?
That's incredible. That
Yeah,
warms
yeah.
my heart.
It is. It's so cool. And it's just like, yeah, I mean, he's like a 16-year-old, learning the Mark Lanigan ways.
I wasn't that cool at 16. I wasn't that cool at 26. I mean, shit.
He's like, Dad, his voice is awesome. It's like, and he's like, oh yeah, like
Isn't
he's
that like that's one of the best experiences when like your thing becomes somebody else's thing.
uh,
And if you can play a part in it, and Andy's undoubtedly doing that, playing a part, and it's cool because I feel like especially like with fathers and sons, like most sons tend to think like, if they reach a certain age and like whatever their dads are into or used to be into is lame, right? But
yeah.
I mean, this is right in the wheelhouse of like Mark Lanegan, like Alice in Chains. They're cool, man. Like they are really really cool. So that's
Yeah, I think it
awesome.
came up. We were talking about the Nirvana Unplugged episode, or a little
Yeah,
bit about it, and then I brought in the tidbit that Mark wanted to play, or he didn't want to play. Kurt wanted him
Kurt
to
wanted
play
him to play. Yeah,
the live performance, and so that's what got us going about it. But all right, moving ahead 10 years, somber note. This is always, um, yeah, same anniversary every year. But Nick Drake dies at age 26 in 1974 on this day. So, the good Lord giveth and taketh away, I guess, with the two of those guys being born and having a death day on the same day. But
yeah. I'll tell you, like between the two of them, I mean, such great songwriting ability, and I think both of their voices are so distinct in their own right. Where I mean, you could listen to a half a second of either of them singing, and um, that it's them. And Nick Drake, man, wish we could have gotten more music from him, and it's a shame that his height of popularity only occurred well after he passed away. And I hope at some point it was known to him how appreciated he was and just how talented he was, because man, I mean, the amount of people, and we've done it too, we've leaned on his music over the years, and he especially the Pink Moon album, that seems to occupy a space where like when somebody is like just starting to like really get into music, that's always one that they come across, and that's always one that they find something in and they identify with. It's just really cool. Feel like it's just one of those early stepping stones that you just really really launch into music with, and it's great.
yeah, that album, Pink Moon. I don't know. I mean, people talk about favorite albums or albums you want to take to a deserted island, or if you're
Hmm.
stranded on an island, and you know, would I say Pink Moon? Yeah, I think I would. There's a lot of like one album artists they were artists that only were able to release an album, and for some reason, it's just so special in a
Yeah.
lot of ways. And I don't know, the Pink Moon was really big for both of us when we were getting into getting into
Hmm.
music and really talking and being able to, I don't know, experience music together. And
Yeah, absolutely. And he, because that's the thing, like I think he had one album before then, but Pink Moon was so different because it was really just him. And yeah, I agree on that one. I always say like, I listen to Pink Moon, I listen to that album, it just makes me feel like I'm the last person awake on Earth and that everybody else has gone to sleep. And it's a cool feeling. I mean, I think the whole record is like 35 minutes or something. It's quite short.
mhm.
But I mean, how evocative something as simple as just like one dude and his guitar can be, really to just create a universe with, I mean, two instruments, basically a voice and a guitar. He had that gift, man, as only the best do.
He really did. So for the last one, the meat of the episodes, in 1976, the band plays their farewell concert on Thanksgiving night in San Francisco, and this will be known as the Last Waltz. And it's pretty incredible that you know we talk about things that, like, is it better to burn out or fade away? And obviously, they still played after this, with a different group without Robbie Robertson at times, or they went and did more studio. But they talked about it a lot, and I'm sure we'll get into being the end of their touring days, and they had the wherewithal to make it a big celebration and have people come and play on stage that represented what they saw music as, and their influences, and they had the wherewithal to record it and get Martin Scorsese to come and record and have a documentary side of it. And I love when you have, it's a little bit, there's cameras everywhere now, so people are trying to document everything.
But
But
back
back then,
then, could you imagine? Yeah.
yeah, back then it was not so simple and so easy, and like to be able to pull it off and do it well is, especially with all those people and all the different stories and realities involved. Like it's not easy to get a rock and roll crew together and like have it come out. And it really was, watching it back and what, and because everybody has heard the music and whatnot. But watching back the concert, it really is like it's like a tribute show. It's a special night, and it was on Thanksgiving. That's just like you know stuff you hear about in movies.
Oh yeah, it's so cool, man. Like, I mean, you figure like the brain trust and the talent that was assembled that night,
Yeah,
is really like the most influential, musicians of the decade, and I think of like modern music in a lot of ways. And just to run down this laundry list of talented individuals. I mean, you obviously have the members of the band, then you have Eric Clapton, Neil Diamond, Dr. John, the MD. Bob Dylan, Neil Young, Joni Mitchell, Ronnie Wood, Ringo Starr, Van Morrison, Emmylou Harris, Ronnie Hawkins, Muddy Waters, Stephen Stills, and the Staple Singers. I mean, that is just an absolutely powerful lineup. And the background of this is really interesting of how the concert came to be, and like how a lot of those people got to the stage. So this show took place November 25th, 1976 at the Winterland Ballroom in San Francisco, California. And it was just a really intentional full circle moment because that Winterland Ballroom was the same place where the band played their first show together, after having formed under the name The Band in 1969. And leading up to it, Robbie Robertson had reached out to Martin Scorsese, knowing that he was a fan of music, and asked if he might come and create a documentary. And Scorsese was with it right away. And they went ahead and they did this. And leading up to it, the band actually had appeared a couple of weeks prior to this, on Saturday Night Live to kind of drum up some support from it, which is just a cool intersection, I think, between two times. And just like the cadence of the night is just wild to me. So the whole thing kicks off at 5 o'clock. I think they could fit about 5,000 people in the Winterland Ballroom, but they started at 5 p.m. The entire audience gets Thanksgiving dinner served to them, which is just absolutely incredible. There's waltzing, there's line dance, there's everything is going on here, and the band doesn't actually make an appearance until about 9, and it's just this who's who of tributes to the band. Incredible musicians coming on. There's covers, there's band originals, there's the guests, they're playing originals, and this thing goes until 2:15 in the morning by the time the band plays their final song of the evening, which interestingly enough was a cover. It was a cover of Don't Do It by Marvin Gaye, which when you watch the documentary, actually that's the first song that's shown in the documentary. So it's interesting. I'm so much more well acquainted with the soundtrack and the live album as opposed to the documentary itself. So like watching it last night once again for the first time in a while kind of threw me for a trip. I was like, oh, like this song's coming on here, like this is what's going on. And the documentary itself is so cool where it's it's just so well done, I think, in terms of splicing in the music along with interviews with members of the band, and discussing their history, discussing how they came to be, and I think, as you referenced earlier, Ethan, most importantly, and I think most eloquently, why they chose to stop at that point. And it's just some really interesting thoughts from a lot of the guys in the band, particularly Robbie Robertson, as he was kind of the head of certainly jockeying for this documentary to be made. And there was some ill will later on. Levon Helm felt that Garth Hudson and Richard Manuel were not showcased enough during the documentary itself. But time heals, as they say, and Yeah, I mean, this whole thing, I mean, it just kicks off right from the beginning. That black cut card at the front, and it just says in all caps, "This film should be played loud," and that's a great start right there, man.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Robbie, he was the one who kind of brought up that they should stop touring, and not everybody was on board with that, but he kind of
Right.
convinced them, or they talked about it. And I know what you're all thinking out there is, why is the Grunge Bible doing an episode on the band, the Last Waltz? And I think it's important to think about obviously where Grunge Bible stemmed, and oddly enough, the band was, that's our Beatles, that's our Elvis, that's our Rolling Stones. Insert like any big musical influence on people. Like this was the band that I was like, you know what? If I'm gonna, if all roads lead to somebody, it leads to the band for us. And that's where a lot of these, it just seems like they just grandfathered in music for us in a way. And I think, speaking for both of us, I just think that for some reason it holds like the place of like if there was a family tree of music, like the band is at the top.
Oh
And
yeah.
and yeah, they bring in like in the beginning of the documentary, they bring in and they show each member, and like you just know all the guys, and then you look through and and all the people that came and showed up through that night. I mean, like you know they were friends with everybody. They knew everybody was there, and I mean the music industry is still like that, but like everybody showed up for these guys. Like I don't think it's not a secret that these guys were a huge influence on everybody, and that's why they were called the band. They were just the band back then.
That's
Like
just what they were. Yeah.
it
And
was Bob Dylan was like he just started calling them the band when they were trying to figure out the names of what it could be, and it just stuck. They're like, yeah, we'll just that's who we are. We're just the band.
yeah,
And I love the idea that there's a very influential band called that.
it's absolutely baller because at the time the band were serving as Bob's band, and obviously like oh that's that's just the band, and the fact that they stuck with it is just that's just so cool. But I love that you included some background. I mean, like, and let me just put it this way, like we were band guys before we were even Pearl Jam guys. Like you and I met, and for some reason, like even before Credence, like I don't even know why it was the band, but it was the band. It was the Weight. It was Up on Cripple Creek. It was I Shall Be Released. And it was music from Big Pink. As you can see if you're watching on YouTube, it's above me right now on the wall. I mean that was our record, man. Like that was like the first album that I think we really bonded over. And what a weird trip that like that's kind of how we started like really getting into music through these guys, and it ends up here. Like if we had known in 2014 when we were, listening to this shit together that we would be sitting here in 2024 doing a podcast episode about the Last Waltz, I'd have said that you're crazy. But I mean, that's the thing, like it's one of those things where I've spent so much time with this band. I'm gonna see how many times I can say band. And like last night, like sitting down watching the Last Waltz, when the first track "Don't Do It," that Marvin Gaye cover, like I started moving a little bit. Like you just can't help it, and I just couldn't believe, and I'll never get over just how good all of these guys were in this group. And from every single guy, just how seasoned of musicians they were, and their stories are crazy. I mean, like you get a bunch of Canadians, you get Levon, who's from the South, coming together, and like they just get together so seamlessly. Been playing music for ages. They played. They were backing band. They were session band. They touring all this crazy stuff. And I think it was Robbie who was saying like we got together. We had 8 years of playing bars and pubs and things like that, and then 8 years of shows, and then we're here now. It's been 16 years. He's like, I can't even imagine getting to 20, and just like what a cool musical journey these guys went on, that they got together, made something so true and so seamless, and blended all of their talents together, and showcased it in a way that's as clean as this documentary. just what a gift for music fans in general. I think, we were talking about the Nick Drake thing beforehand with Pink Moon. Like, I think a lot of the stuff that the band did, like, that's just, no matter what your interests are musically, like, you just can't help but appreciate stuff like this.
Yeah, and if you like documentaries and music documentaries, I mean, this was voted.
It's
I
one of the
think it's
OGs.
what's that?
It's one of the OGs.
It's one of the OGs, and it's super well done. And like the quality, and sometimes you get impressed because this is 50 years ago it was filmed, and the quality is better than some of the stuff that you see now. And it's special. It just really is like, and like exactly what you were talking about. I think the main point is like these guys were so effing good. Like when they're playing and they're jamming and they're playing rock and roll, and then they cut to them talking about it, and then they go back to the concert. It's such a good flow, but like, yeah, showcasing just how good, because everybody knows. I mean, you know that these guys obviously were really solid, but I think watching it to like completion, and we're talking about watching bands and whatnot, just the joy that they played with, the intensity and the passion. I mean, a lot of soul, a lot of blues, a lot of rock and roll back in, like, this was very like important music to them. And that's why they're one of the best to ever do it.
Yeah. It's
I think
just,
it's like one of the best, the most important thing to get across right now is you guys should be listening to more of the band.
yes, unequivocally. And it's unbelievable how many different genres and subgenres they were able to blend together, because I mean, you had a lot of like country stuff, you had folk stuff, you had like hillbilly type stuff, you had Americana, you had rock and roll, you had blues, rockabilly, like all of this shit was just put together. And between the way that they played, the voices, I mean, how can you not talk about, I think Levon Helm, Rick Danko, and Richard Manuel have three of the greatest voices ever, and the fact that they were all together singing at the same time, I mean, it's just unbelievable. You've got Up on Cripple Creek with Levon, you've got Richard Manuel doing I Shall Be Released in his falsetto style. I think one of the stars of the documentary and of this, the live performance that was The Last Waltz was Rick Danko on It Makes No Difference. I mean, just how pure his voice is. I mean, and that's your bassist, man, like playing, like singing like that. Like I mean, Levon's playing, he's playing like classical grip drums back there, just belting this stuff out. Like the night they drove Old Dixie down, and he's letting it soar. It's so good, dude. And
Yeah.
the
And they all
fact
played multiple instruments. They would all play like the
they could all
string.
do everything is
Yeah.
crazy.
They really were the band. Like they could literally play everything. And yeah, it's like Harry Potter when you're like when you get put into a school, Slytherin or whatever. Like we were put into
Yeah.
like that's who we, or like in the beginning when you grow up in New York, you have to pick the Giants or the Jets, and you
Hmm.
just happen to pick the wrong one, which
Yeah.
is either of them. But like we, yeah, it's awesome. So like going through a little bit more of the randomness, like it's one of those things where you look back, just like we talked about the Nirvana, where you look at it, you're just like, oh, this set was perfect. Everything that happened was perfect. Like it created so much lore. Even the stuff that went bad, like
Yeah.
in the I think when Eric Clapton came out and played on one of his songs, like he started his guitar solo and his strap fell off.
Yeah.
And without missing a beat, Robbie decided to pick up his guitar solo and just it just like started like finished out his solo. And it was like it's just something that you read about, you're just like, that's so cool. But in the time, it probably, like stuff like that is like really annoying and like not perfect, obviously. But
Yeah.
looking back, you're just like, oh, that's like how it had to be.
And that's just what they did. I mean, these guys, you figure like for one occurrence like that in the documentary, I mean, how many different shows that, the band would be playing and somebody breaks a string, or, Levon's drumstick breaks or something, and these guys are just professionals. I mean, there's no situation that they haven't seen. But just to kind of get into some of these performances, and some of the guests, I think I read at the time that they had originally intended, because of a lot of Canadian connection with the band, a lot of the members hailing from up there. I think they had invited I think Neil Young and Joni Mitchell were some of the original invites for this, but then the list just kept growing and growing to the point that, I mean, you had like Clapton, you had Dr. John, you had Stephen Stills, you had Muddy Waters in there, and just some of these. I love the fact that it's not just the band's songs that they're playing. I mean, you have Neil Young's "Helpless" being played. You have Joni Mitchell "Coyote," Dr. John's "Such a Night," which is a high point of the show for me, certainly. You've got covers, Dylan's "Forever Young," and then, classically, as I think all good tribute shows end with. The "I Shall Be Released," when everybody comes on, like these guys invented that shit. Like the tribute show at the end, like everybody comes on and plays, like these guys invented that thing, and these guys invented the music documentary in a lot of ways, which is crazy to think about, the fact, like, oh yeah, like this hadn't been done before, and just how arduous at times it was, the fact that it even got done. And I just I kind of want to talk about a couple of the hurdles that had occurred
Yeah,
throughout
that's it. Yeah,
this.
we gotta talk about the imperfections that made it so perfect.
Yeah, there's some lore here. So obviously, in 1976, Bob Dylan is probably the most popular singer-songwriter on the planet. And when Robertson had contacted Martin Scorsese to do this, they got Warner Brothers to come in and finance this puppy and get this thing done. So Bob Dylan shows up to the Last Waltz, and they have a bunch of cameras. They're getting ready to create this documentary. At the show, Bob decides that maybe he doesn't want to be filmed. Maybe he doesn't want to be in this, because at the time he was coming out with his own film that he was directing, and I believe he was in. It was called Ronaldo and Clara. I've not seen it. I've seen The Last Waltz. That says all you need to know. But evidently at the time he was concerned that appearing in The Last Waltz would kind of dampen the impact that this masterpiece, Ronaldo and Clara, would have. So he got cold feet. But there was a minor issue, because Warner Brothers had financed Scorsese to do The Last Waltz solely because Bob Dylan was going to be in it. So no Dylan, no money, and they would have had a big old issue. But luckily for the band and for Scorsese, the legendary West Coast and really national promoter Billy Graham had put this thing together and was willing to go to bat for them. And he sat down with Bob, and this is all happening like while the show was getting ready to go on, and like while it's going on, he sits him down. He's like, "Hey man, like, we're not going to put this out until Ronaldo and Clara is out. And not only that, like, this is going to be cool. Like, this is a good thing. You should do it." So eventually Bob Dylan relented, and he was included in this, and he decided to take part in it, which is really crazy. The fact that like Warner Brothers is like, "Yeah, I'm only paying. You're only going to be allowed to do this if Bob Dylan himself is in there." But unbelievable.
Yeah, right when the show is going on, and be like, actually, you know what, I changed my mind, guys. Like, I don't want to be a part of it. It'd just be like, dude, they said they were like gonna lose out on like $1 million in in 76, so they're gonna waste $1 million of like all the the process of getting it ready and whatnot. So that would have been a huge hit. So he saved the day by going back and being a part of it.
It's really unbelievable. And that's an incredible story, to speak of nothing of the music and the guests. But I think my favorite story, and perhaps one of the more well-known stories from this night,
which has definitely been said on this show before.
Oh, yeah. But we need to regale it again, and that's the Neil Young cocaine incident here. So I mean, this was 76. These are rock stars. Everybody, including Martin Scorsese, they were all doing coke, and there was so much coke at this show. And I think I had read that Neil Young had started that day on the East Coast. I think he might have been in Boston or something playing, and he took a flight, so he had a really long day. And he gets to San Francisco in time for this thing. And backstage, I can only imagine what backstage at these shows must have looked like in terms of drugs and assorted vices that you could have gotten into. But I mean, he decides to do a little coke. He's had a long day, and he needs to be there for his guys, and he decides to do a little cocaine. And by the time, I believe his first appearance of the evening was for Helpless, which is one of his songs, or I forget if it was his or Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. Nevertheless, and he goes out there and he's got cocaine in his nose and on his nose, and it's visible. So they, they're recording a documentary, and he goes up there, and you can tell that he's on some substances, and he's like, "I just want to say it's one of the honors of my life to be here tonight." And he plays a beautifully
Yeah.
well done version of Helpless. But after this, Neil Young's managers catch wind of the fact that he had a little bit of cocaine residue visible, and they mandated to Scorsese and Warner Brothers that it be edited out, which I can only imagine in 1976, 77, and 78 was a tall order. And evidently what they had to do is they kind of had to have this like floating like cocaine booger masker on the screen that followed Neil Young's nose wherever it went while during that performance, which is really, you speak of, I mean, if you want to talk about breakthroughs and accomplishments in terms of video editing, I mean, that's crazy that they were able to do that because you can't see it. But I mean, one of the ultimate pieces of lore from this show, certainly. And Scorsese himself, he's like, I was doing it too.
Yeah, I was doing it too. Everybody was doing it. Oh man. Yeah, that one's definitely been told a few times, and which it should be. And it's just, Uncle Neil. You love that.
It's
Love
just
hearing about it.
that's just
Um,
what Uncle Neil does.
yeah, so I don't know. What is your favorite performance from I mean, like the big ones, like the night they drove Old Dixie down is like one of it's just so good. The weight. I mean, is it the classics for you, or did you have one that I know I
Um,
feel like you want to talk about Dr. John at some point?
yeah, I mean, I think it begins and ends with "I Shall Be Released" just because
Yeah.
of everybody's participation in it. Up on Cripple Creek, is a really really fantastic performance there as well. Don't Do It, the Marvin Gaye cover, which was the final encore around 2:15, really struck me, especially because that's what they opened up the documentary with. But I think I have to give a nod to It Makes No Difference in Acadian Driftwood. Those were two songs of the bands that I was introduced to from the first time that I listened to the Last Waltz soundtrack, and two songs I think that the studio version does not do justice to compared to these performances. I just love Acadian Driftwood is just a symphony of voices on this one, and as I said earlier, It Makes No Difference. Rick Danko, his voice on that is just so soulful and so emotional, and it's wild to think about, all of these guys. This recording was them getting together for the last time, and sure enough, this would be the last time that they would perform ever as the band. The band name lived on, and they began touring without Robbie Robertson in 1980. But it wasn't not that long after, in 1986, that Richard Manuel passed away and Rick Danko passed away, I think in the 90s, and then Levon passed, I think, in 2012, and and now Robbie's gone too, and I think it's just Garth Hudson who's left now from the group. But I think those are some of my favorite performances. To say nothing of all the classics. I mean, it's like, what's your favorite performance from the Last Waltz? It's like, well, how much time do you have? I
Yeah.
mean, you had Manish Boy with Muddy Waters, and yes, of course, you did have Such a Night with Dr. John, Coyote with Joni Mitchell. I mean, come on.
I was gonna say you got the features were really Joni Mitchell just absolutely killed it. Obviously, Dr. John just they came on and they were just electric. Like Ronnie Hawkins, I think he was one of the earlier ones that came
Yeah.
on, and like they brought a spark to, like I said, the band.
Yeah.
But
And
they
it's
were
so
great
cool that he was there
like
too, because
bring
a
in
lot.
people like hired guns for one or two songs and they give everything they have and they're as good as they are. You just get like it's just a powerhouse set, and yeah, watching it back versus just listening to it, just makes it all. It just takes it to another level that um I'm appreciative of to be able to watch it and just be like, yeah, like I want to go and I want to take it to my dad and be like, go, have him watch it together. Somebody that was a little bit more, knew the band before, and then get to see his thoughts on it because it is phenomenal.
Yeah, and speaking of Ronnie Hawkins, I mean, so cool that he was there. With a lot of these guys being in Ronnie Hawkins and the Hawks,
Yeah,
and that was the way that a lot of them met. It's like, hey, like I'll pay you $10 to come and do this thing, and the just I mean to speak of the experience and the dues that they paid on the road, and I think that's kind of the enduring theme of this is just like all of our talents we earned from our time on the road, and there comes a time to say goodbye. And I think Robbie spoke quite extensively of that whole premise throughout the documentary. But a couple of things that he said, he's like, I don't know if the years connect or if it's coincidence or what it is, but it seems like that's it. That's what the Last Waltz is. I mean, 16 years on the road, the numbers start to scare you. I mean, I couldn't live with 20 years on the road. I don't think I could even discuss it. And just like how soberly he communicates those ideas, I have
yeah,
no frame of reference for that. Like, what's 16 years on the road versus 20? But him being like, I don't think I could even discuss it.
yeah,
It scares me.
yeah. Well, then he also said, and I put down the other quote. He said, "I had become suspicious of the road. Look at what happened to this guy. Look at what happened to them. These people who got crazy when they got on the road. This was not a healthy thing. I was telling the guys in the band, I like the music we made together, but I don't want to go out there and do it anymore. We're not learning from it if we're not growing from it." Dude, he's like, yeah, the road sounds scary.
Like, what is
It
what
sounds
has
like
this man
a
seen?
it's yeah, dude. It's a very like he said the people got crazy when they got on the road, and it sounds like a horror, the beginning to a horror story.
Yeah, and just there's the one I think really famous exchange between Robertson and Scorsese during the film. That I mean, Robertson seemingly in this film, Robbie just wanted to talk about one thing and one thing alone, and that's how terrified he had become of the road. And he says,
How we want to be done.
yeah, and like his last lines in the film, really, the road was our school. At the end, it was our sense of survival. It taught us all we know. There's not much left that we can really take from the road. We've had our share of it, or maybe it's just superstitious. And Scorsese retorts and he says, superstitious in what way? And Robbie returns and he says, no, you can press your luck. The road has taken a lot of great ones. Hank Williams, Buddy Holly, Otis Redding, Janis, Jimi Hendrix, Elvis. It's a goddamn impossible way of life. It is, isn't it? Scorsese says, and Robertson closes and he says, no question about it. And it's just like that experience, like that which makes you successful and which makes you iconic can also simultaneously bring about your downfall. That's got to be such a weighty thing to deal with. And it is interesting because, as you mentioned at the top, like there was some strife where like Robbie clearly after reading these quotes wanted nothing more than to get off the road.
He wanted to be done.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I mean, and it's sad too because this happened in '76, and 10 years later, Manuel dies on the road. Richard Manuel passes away on the road in 1986, and it's interesting foresight and I think wisdom to have, especially at that point. It's like there's nothing else that we can get from this, and it's cool. They called their shot, and the burnout versus fade away type thing. It's like they decided that like that was it, and they went out on top, and they went out as such a powerful unit. And say what you will about the battles that these guys had. I think there was definitely some ill will with between a lot of the members in Robertson after this, but I mean, when they got together, I mean, just how professional and how good they were. I think yesterday I was watching it, and like 5 minutes into it, I just texted you. I was like, these guys were good.
yeah,
And I don't know how many times I need to repeat that, but like they were just unbelievable in a way that you don't you don't see all the time when you're watching people play live. Like there's just something different about these guys, and it's
yeah.
it's captured so greatly in The Last Waltz.
I also want to come back to the reason that we're talking about this is they played this on Thanksgiving night and everybody had turkey dinners in the stands.
Imagine
Like,
filling up on turkey and then you're sitting there watching the band for six
and you're
hours.
told to it, your Dr. John comes out. Like, imagine, oh my gosh, like what a night, what a beautiful night that could
Such
have
a
been.
night.
Yeah. So um I think that it's so I just love that it's on Thanksgiving. Like I said, things are just done at the right time. And that's what this week is all about. I think We are we have Alice's Restaurant's going to come out of hiding at the end of the week, and then all the Christmas music will be in full tilt after that.
Oh
I don't know,
yeah.
Chris, have you got into Christmas music at all yet?
Yeah, I've started to a little bit. So for some reason or another, I went to a Halloween party on November 1st, the day after Halloween, and the party ended, and there was probably like 20, like not 20, like maybe 10 or 15 of us still left, and somebody put on. I mean, we were all obviously on our on our way at that point, and it was pretty late at night. This was before we settled down to like just sitting around the fire, and I don't know who put on "Step Into Christmas" by Elton John, but it was like you know how like you know how, like back in the Middle Ages, like people like dancing fever would like break out and whatever, and people just go nuts. Like that song hit that night.
That's
So
what it
like
was.
ever since then, I've been obsessed with that song. So I'm excited to be listening to some Christmas music this year.
Yeah,
Yeah, are
yeah.
you?
I'm a big fan of Christmas music as well.
Yeah.
It's just so much fun. I really like you said, there's no, I mean, there's Halloween music that gets you in the mood for
That's
Halloween.
yeah.
The Monster Mash is not a banger, and I know bangers, but like, yeah, it's really exciting. And moving on, I guess, to our songs of the week. I think I have a song. So obviously, without saying, when we do stuff like this, we encourage you go listen to the Last Waltz, listen to the band, and watch the performance because we did an episode on it. It's pretty clear that those are the songs of the week. And I don't know, maybe you are going to pick one specifically, but um, to 2 years ago, I think was the first time Jason Kelsey released a Christmas
Oh
album.
God.
Yeah, do you remember? Obviously, the Philly special, and he
Yes.
actually, it was a few of the linemen, but they got the band War on Drugs to play the music and help
Right.
produce.
Yeah, I
So
recall.
they're one of I really like them as a band. They're awesome. They have a great sound. Um, and it did well. I mean, Jason has a really they all have really good voices. And but this year he actually did a song with Stevie Nicks, and then he also did a song with Mount Joy, the Jesus rides an Astra van, or yeah, and now it's Santa drives an Astra van,
Hell
and
yeah,
they
he does.
sings with Mount Joy, and he comes in and he connects it to Philly, and it's like awesome. And I have a theory that um you know, Jason Kelsey's gonna. I mean, he has a Spotify profile. Like he's moving into the second act, and he is beginning to uh, build his music profile and whatnot. And like, it sounds crazy, but like, in a couple years, if he keeps doing, he's working with he worked with Mountjoy, War on Drugs, and Stevie Nicks so far. Like,
It's more people
those are
than I've
pretty good.
worked with.
He wants to take this wherever it go. I don't know what it could be. And like I said, he's got a good voice, so I don't know. He's gonna
Dude,
do something. He's gonna change Christmas music. I don't know if that's his thing. Like
dude,
that'll be
being
his niche, but maybe maybe he'll be like Mariah Carey. He's gotta break out Jason Kelsey.
being famous is such a cheat code to just getting access to people that your talents otherwise would have no business getting you access to. But that's Hollywood, baby.
This is true. So I would say I'll put that as my song. I really like it. So
Nice, man. Yeah, I was thinking about picking something from the Last Waltz, but um I mean they were just I don't even know which one I would pick, but I think I am gonna pick "Step Into Christmas" by Elton John. I'm telling you, man, like we were partying for like a while, and I don't know who put it on, but it just hit, and
there we go.
I've never gone crazy to "Step Into Christmas" by Elton John, but it's very quickly climbing up the power rankings of Christmas songs for me, which it hadn't been ranking very highly on, but now it's moving on up there, so I'm pretty fired up about that.
I'm excited to listen to it
Oh
for
yeah,
sure.
yeah, it's great, man.
Awesome. Well, I think that
I'm
wraps up
pretty good about it.
another episode, Chris. We did
Yeah, it
it.
does. Yeah, we're not making it to an hour and 7 minutes today, but it's the holidays. I mean, if you're in the States, you're not working a full week, hopefully, and we're not we're not doing a full hour and 7 minutes either. So we're gonna clock it in here. But if you do celebrate the Thanksgiving holiday, we hope that it is a lovely one. We are thankful for each of you for taking the time to spend with us. We look forward every week to spending the time with you. So we hope you have a peaceful and restful holiday, full of all of your favorite things, whether you're celebrating or not. We hope it's a great week ahead for all of you.
That's right, everybody. We will be back, same place, same time next week. Do better, even better. Can't wait to talk again, Chris.
Yeah, man, I can't wait. This is our last episode of November. We're moving into December here, which is crazy. Time's
Long
flying.
December upon us.
Oh man, it's coming soon. All right, take care, everybody. Rock and roll. Stay heavy. Happy Thanksgiving. And please, for the love of God, just go listen to The Last Waltz. Watch it. It's the best.
I thought you were going to say become a Patreon supporter.
Honestly, if I had to choose, you can support us or you can just become a band guy.
Yeah.
Go listen to the band, man. Save your money for us for later.
Later. All right, guys. Peace.
Rock and roll.